All right, well, back for another edition of the Sports Den. I keep forgetting the name of our podcast, but what is it? It's like sixth or seventh episode. I did find out from Show Killer Matt that we are dominating the podcast industry at the New Mexican. James, you and I are quite popular because I think it's because we're riding the emotional wave of basketball.
Yeah, I know. Just wait till the summer, man, when we get like 5 people and 3 of them are us.
The Fuego fans. It'll be
Yeah, they're Fuego fans. Yeah.
we'll find out just how much people love the Fuego baseball updates. We'll break
We're gonna
down
do
who's
a
starting.
podcast from. We're gonna have to do a podcast from Fort Marcy just for that.
You interview all 6 people in the building. That's what we could do. Well,
Dude, that would be considered in depth.
yeah. Well, the big news over the weekend, really last week, is UNM's coaching search. Man, it's just been such a turbulent week for that school. You know, today's a Tuesday that we're recording this. On a Sunday, they're in the second round of the NCAA tournament. They lose. The next day, the portal opens. You have 3 or 4 guys jump into it. And then within 48 hours, your coach is gone. Now you're doing a national search. And every day, another guy leaks out. So now there's only, as far as I can tell, there's only 3 players on the active roster, one of which is a returning redshirt freshman. And today, they just hired the new coach yesterday, Sunday, right? I'm getting all my days all mixed up now.
That's right. Yeah, no, it was Sunday.
Yeah,
it was Sunday. You know, it's supposed to be the Lord's Day, but apparently it's not. Well, yeah, basketball is a religion here, so I guess it does still work.
Yeah, not in the sports industry is it considered the Lord's Day. So yeah, it's so Eric Olen is the guy, the head coach at UC San Diego, and today they did a press conference for him in the Davilo Center, which it's my understanding the reason we didn't do it in the pit, where we usually do it, is because they're still cleaning up from the Ty Murray Invitational, because they had a bunch of tractors and stuff outside with a bunch of dirt on them. So I think they're still plowing out all the dirt from the building.
Did you still smell the manure from the weekend?
I didn't get close enough to the doors, thank goodness. But it was a very intimate setting in the Davilo Center, and there was probably a good 200 or 300 people there. So it was a good turnout. It's just the usual pomp and circumstance of a press conference. My first reaction to it, my first impressions is, the guy he's got a lot of work cut out for him. You have to build a staff. You have to bring in, maybe, I'm assuming, a general manager, since everyone's getting him now. You need the people behind the scenes. Plus, you're going to have to add 11 or 12 players to the active roster. It's like a complete expansion franchise at this point. And, oh, by the way, you can't have access to any of these guys until the summer, because even the guys that jumped into the portal, they're still on campus. Like Donovan Dent was in the building today, and he was coming in to clean out his sneakers when this thing was starting. So Donovan made a quick appearance.
He's got great timing there, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he's trying to get out through the back door, and everybody's still there. Everybody's waiting for you.
And I did find out too. I found this out through a couple of people behind the scenes at UNM, that Donovan Dent, the reason he's not a Lobo anymore, obviously he's going back home. He's from LA and he fits in well. He's playing for UCLA, which is good for him. But they paid him $2 million up front and another $1 million during the season. So this guy is going to make $3 million for one season playing basketball for UCLA. And there is not a 21-year-old person on the face of the planet who turned that money down. So you can't Lobo fans can hate on him all they want. But I promise you, if you go back to your 21-year-old version of yourself, you're not turning that money down. There's no way on earth that happens. So
I'd have done it for $50,000 back in the day, but yeah.
I would have done it for a free meal at the Frontier, man. I would have done that. So.
Dude, you sold yourself short, man. The Frontier was way overrated even back then. Outside of the cinnamon rolls and the breakfast burritos, there's really not much on that menu, and I'm gonna get crap from that, obviously, from probably the owners there.
Well, yeah, when I was a college kid, it was like, dinner was a couple of slices of white bread with butter and maybe bologna. So,
so you were splurging when you went to the Frontier.
Yeah, these guys are living.
You took your dates, right?
Yeah. But so first impressions of Coach Olen, look, younger guy. There were a couple times during the press conference when he's talking about San Diego, about leaving San Diego, where it's tough on him. It's hard. You spend 21 years in a place. He got married there. He had kids there. He returned from basically a young college kid into a grown man who runs his own basketball program, all at the same school, never left. And so to leave that to come to Albuquerque on a day where it's blowing so hard, it looks like we're in the Middle East. Like you can't even see the mountains today because there's so much dirt in the air. It's like, welcome to New Mexico. This is
exactly. I was going to say there's no better day than a day like today, right? Because this is exactly what you're going to see, especially in the springtime.
one of the things he said during the press conference, and again later when I was interviewing him by myself, is he said, I always heard New Mexico had a bunch of beach. There's just no water here. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of sand in New Mexico, brother.
Yeah, and it's getting tossed around right now, man.
Yeah.
Grab yourself a bucket.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's going to be rough, though. You cannot blame Lobo fans for just kind of wondering what's next. And that was one of the questions I put to the athletic director for Lobo is, why should fans care? Why should you come out and spend $50 for a single ticket to come watch these guys play when there's a very real possibility you're facing a complete makeover from year to year? Why would you want to do that? So it's rough.
No, for sure. And I think the more people look at after everything that's happened over the last week or so, I think there's a sense of, well, it's, we're next year. Basically, people are kind of throwing next year out, and and for good reason. I mean, when you look at, like you said, you got 3 players coming back. You pretty much lost all your, any incoming recruits, all of your studs. Everybody that was in the rotation last year pretty much is gone. So this is going to be a completely new team that you're going to see out there. But we've seen stranger things. I mean, everybody talked about when the Lobos lost Toppin, and then they obviously lost Mashburn and House, and everybody talked about how this is going to be a bit of a rebuilding project. And then, boom, we see what they do, winning the conference, the regular season title, winning a game in the NCAA. And people, I think if you had told people this last year at this point, they would have taken that without a second thought. And there's always that sense that maybe things will turn out better than what people expect. I mean, I don't think anybody should be expecting an NCAA tournament bid, but at the same time, this is a competitive program, and I think the expectation is still that. I don't think anybody's is gonna. They may give them a pass for the first year, especially if it's like a 10 or 12 win season, but there better be improvement and it better be fast.
Yeah, and that's another thing he's got to learn around here is. Yeah, UCSD, the expectations are that you were a Division II school 5 years ago, and you're just slowly building into Division I. He had a breakthrough year. They went 30-5 this year. Look, they took Michigan right down to the buzzer in the NCAA tournament. They're a 3-point shot away from taking that game in overtime against Michigan. Mm-hmm. But look, you are truly in a fishbowl in New Mexico where there's no off season for Lobo basketball. 14,000 fans show up every single night. And it's like what Patino used to say when he was here. You hate to lose, but you hate to lose even more because you're sending all these people home just devastated because there is no Green Bay Packers down the street. There's no Oklahoma City across town. This is the professional team. This is the show. This is what people have. People love their high school sports too. They love their leisurely activities, but this is a team that everyone roots for. And so losing is worse on the fans than it is on the actual team itself. So I think he'll find that out pretty quickly. People are, of course, it's press conference. Everyone's glad handing the guy. They're saying all the right things. And so, you walk out of there with a sense of optimism. But truth is, it's going to be a pretty rough go for him. And then we're going to find out just how much money UNM has for the NIL collective. I've heard about $5 million for the entire program. It is going to help that the state's about to sign off on that bill that gives the $3 million every single year to UNM to help fund athletics, specifically to help pay for athletes. And then this summer, with that the House versus
the House settlement,
rev share thing that's going to come into place. No one was really sure how it's going to work, but most of that money is going to go straight to the athletes, and it just shows you how broken the system is. As your success isn't so much determined by a coach, it's determined on how much money you have to go out and find these guys. And then here's the thing is you find these guys, and if you're successful, UCLA is beating down your door asking for your point guard. So it's rough. It's going to be this is just the way of college athletics now. And it's
or even worse, San Diego State, man. I mean, could you imagine if if they have a coaching change there? I mean, easy thing to do is go back to your hometown. So and everybody will be happy, except for Lobo fans, obviously. But I have to imagine, after talking to him, I can't imagine this is a guy that's going to be here more than 4 years, probably, like what Patino was.
Yeah, and they gave us the details of his contract. He's making $1.2 million right off the bat, and then it's a stepladder process. He gets a $50,000 raise every year, so by the end of it, he'll be making 1.4. He gets a 5-year deal, and there's a lot of incentives built into it. He could make up to $300,000 extra if he wins the conference, if he wins the tournament, if he's named Mountain West Coach of the Year, National Coach of the Year, if he gets an at-large bid at the NCAA tournament. And they get, I believe it was $50,000 per win in the NCAA tournament. So if they can make the Sweet 16, that pays for the off-season trip to Rome for the whole family. So it's going to be there's a lot of money out there to be had for this guy. But man, you're going to find out pretty quickly that where at San Diego, UCSD, maybe people are patient because they've never really had basketball. Here, they want you to win right now. They want you to do it right now. So
yeah.
And that was one of the questions to him too, is what kind of system you're going to run, because at UC San Diego, they were one of the top rated defensive teams in the country. They were holding they were top 10 in points allowed and field goal percentage allowed. He said what they're going to do is they're going to be a 3-point heavy team, shooting a lot of threes and just playing that matchup zone defense that kind of confuses people. So we'll see how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And just doing some research and just looking at some of his previous teams that he's had, especially the ones that have played at the Division I level. It sounds like it seems to me like I know he kind of comes off as like a guy that wants to play more of at a slower tempo and everything. One of the things that I noted, especially in the last 2 years, is his teams have generally been efficient offensively. So that leads me to believe that they're a team that is very patient on offense. But they do find high percentage shots out of whatever system that they're running. I know, I'm sure he gives this pat answer that he'll adjust whatever personnel he has and everything. But coaches tend to fall back on what they know, and I would imagine that's probably what they're going to be, is just a team that is going to be very patient and play a lot of defense, and hopefully maybe try to score off of defensive stops or turnovers and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how this team looks by the time we see them in October.
Yeah, there's so many unanswered questions about this whole thing, because you have to remember they were at the same level as New Mexico Highlands until 5 years ago. They were a Division II school,
but they were a good one. I mean, with the caveat, they were a very good Division II program for about a decade. Under Roland. So
absolutely, yeah, they were 30-1 going into the COVID March.
Yeah, that was going to be. I think that was going to be the year they were going to contend for a national championship. So
yeah, but it's a different animal. Well, you jump up to Division I, and they found that out. They had some growing pains. They had a sub 500 record the first 3 years. Last year they won 21 games, and then this past season was their first year of eligibility for the postseason.
And then they make it.
They win 30 games, and you come within a missed shot of taking Michigan out and getting to the round of 32, exactly where the Lobos were. So, look, there's a sense of, it's just like any other coach. You come in, you say all the right things. There's a sense of optimism, but it's like, man, it's just a different era in college athletics now.
And there's a lot of work to be done, especially when you have 12 spots on your roster that you have to fill, and an entire starting roster. A starting lineup at that point. At that. So, and granted, there might be one or two guys that do come back. They like what Olen tells them, and they come back. But you can't assume that. And I would presume that, and I think we talked about this before off the air, that some of the guys that were already in the portal for that are transferring out of San Diego probably will end up there. And I think there's a couple of recruits. One in particular, I think. In the San Diego area, the kid scored about 3,000 points in his career. So obviously the kid's a bit of a shooter and a gunner and everything. So, and then there's talk that he's already been reached out, or that Olen's already reached out to him for to bring him here. So there's a few pieces there that seem to be maybe that'll come into place quickly, but that still leaves you about 7 or 8 spots that you're going to have to fill.
Yeah, I think people are always wanting to know which of the Lobos that are in the portal could potentially come back, because look, it's not like some of these coaches. Some coaches have the mindset that when you jump into the portal, you're dead to me, that you're gone. You might as well pack back, never come back. But you have to remember, all these guys are still on campus. They're still taking class at UNM. They have to finish out the semester if they want to stay eligible. So every one of those guys, Donovan Dent included, still taking class every single day at UNM. I think if there's an outside shot of any of those guys coming back, I think we'll find out that True Washington does have a place on that team because he could become the man. They do have the NIL money to make him happy. Braden Applehound's second straight year he's jumped into the portal. He's a three-point shooter. They need a big shooter. He loves a bigger guard who can shoot. Borovichinen could come back, although I think I would not be surprised if Borovichinen winds up at Colorado State because he had such a good relationship with Dave Pilipovich, the UNM assistant, who's now on CSU's roster. But Jovan Milicevic, I think, is the one guy that they probably want to go after because he's 6'10". He had a great freshman year, breakout freshman year, and now he could become that guy who shoots the three, who's big enough to grind it out in the low post if he has to.
Yep.
He could become one of these guys you could build some sort of defensive three-point shooting culture around. So, like, there's 4 or 5 guys that have the possibility of coming back, but it's going to be a crazy next couple of weeks. This guy's already off to San Antonio right after this. He's got to go down to the Final Four because it's like the giant coaching convention to build a coaching staff. His top assistant stayed behind at UCSD and is now the head coach. So that guy doesn't come with him. So he'll be glad handing everyone he can at San Antonio, build a roster, and then come back Monday. And you're working those phones. You're trying to find as many players as you can to get out here. So it's crazy. It's crazy how much time is left. Like what's going on. But I'm just look, man. I'm just glad it's baseball season because now see, I've got my countdown right here. This is my countdown.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, this is the Angels. I'm a huge Angels fan. This is to avoid.
You just want to get to 99 losses, right?
Yeah, they got 3 wins down. We're alone in first place in the American League West at the time of this recording. 60 wins to go to avoid 100 losses for the first time ever. So every week I'm going to update this as they go. And the magic number.
What are you going to do when it looks like they're going to pass 60? Are you just going to scribble that thing out and then start putting 70? And then when they get past 70, you're going to scribble that out and put 80.
It's all bonus time after that, man. You get to 63 wins. Everything else is just pure gravy after that. So, yeah, they went 63 and 99 last year. So this is And then I watched the season. Of course, they played the White Sox in the season opener, and I almost threw my TV out the back window because, of course, they lost 8-1. So
yeah, you're already looking at 0-62 in the face. You were thinking the season was over with, and it hadn't even started.
Yeah, and Mike Trout, third pitch of the season, gets hit on the wrist. It's like, oh, great. He just fractured his wrist. He's out till September now. It's like, here we go.
Yeah, and now look at you. You've got 3 wins. You're leading the AL West. If the season ended tomorrow, you'd be division champs.
Yeah, I did send an email to Manfred just to see if he could cut the season short after 4 games because we'd be in the playoffs for the first time in 11 years. So it'd be awesome.
Dang, has it been that long? My God, man. I remember when the Mariners, they went 20 years without making it? Dude, man, you don't want to go that long without seeing the postseason.
2014, they got swept by the Royals, 3-0 in the first round.
Oh, that's right. I remember that vaguely. I was as much of a Red Sox fan as I am. I'm a bit of a Royals sympathizer, and it was kind of nice to see them make that run that year to the World Series and then come back and win it the following year.
Red Sox fans, you guys win the World Series every other year. Don't give me that. How hard?
It's been 6 years, man. Well, all I know is that my Red Sox have 4 World Championships. The Yankees have 1. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah,
everything else.
The Angels have won once in their history, their existence, and you're in Los Angeles, which I bet if you took a poll of everybody in Los Angeles, they'd be like, "Wait, we have another team here? I didn't know there was another team. Get out of here! I thought this was only a Dodgers town." So yeah, but you know what? I like it that way. I like living in obscurity with my team. So when they finally do break through and maybe we win 74 games this year, we can have our own little ticker tape parade in Anaheim. We could do that.
We're not being the worst.
Yeah.
from worst to meh. I've never seen a ticker tape parade for that.
Well, and see, now that it's baseball season, you get to go to the Isotope season opener, which is tonight. We're recording Tuesday. You have to get out to that windy, dusty, nasty ballpark here in 20 minutes. You got to get out of here.
Yeah. I'm side viewing the winds out there, and I can see this tree that's sitting behind our neighbor's house, and it goes from I can see all of it to I can see none of it, and then it literally is just doing this hula dance, at least twice a minute. So I imagine it's going to be wonderful, especially with the temperature dropping the way it's going to tonight. It is going to be cold and miserable, and there might be more people at the end of a Fuego game than there will be at the end of the
Oh,
ice
yeah.
game tonight.
The best thing about covering it, from a media standpoint, the best thing about covering an Isotopes game is the press box has really good food. Oh, man.
And it's inside.
It's inside. You're at the very top level. Everything's insulated. It's just wonderful. And you look down at all the fans, you're like, that's how the other half lives, right down there.
Yeah.
We're up here.
Yeah, you suddenly feel special, don't you?
Yeah. I just want to tell their sports information guy, like, the coffee's a little cold. If you could heat it up, that'd be great. So
Yeah. Well, knowing you, you'd probably throw it at him.
like, Forrest, I think we need more food in here. Go on, get some of those green beans. The green beans they were serving in the third inning. Go get some more. So
The bacon, the bacon flavored ones.
Yeah. Oh man, I actually, when I was doing, I think it was like, maybe it was pre-COVID, and I asked the guy who came in and served food. He gave me the general recipe of how to make it, and it's like, man, I've never been able to duplicate Isotopes Park food, but
Have you even come close?
yeah, it takes some love. I just don't have any cook in me, so it's like I'm trying the best I can. But speaking of baseball, last week I went to the Santa Fe High St. Mike's doubleheader.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, and my favorite part about it, and I'm going to do this story probably the next week or two, is Santa Fe High's baseball field. If you've never been out there, it's really nice. They did a lot of work to it. It's like a brand new facility. Problem is, if they got these really nice batting cages, like state-of-the-art batting, they collapsed. That snowstorm we had back in November,
The only snowstorm that we had.
and it just completely collapsed that whole structure. It's got these giant 15-foot tall poles, and it snowed, and then it got icy, and that ice turned the weight was too much for the netting.
Yeah, and it just all comes.
Pulled it all down like a giant accordion, and so they roped it off with yellow caution tape, and they still haven't fixed it. That was what November was. What, 5 months ago?
Yeah, almost 5 months now. Now that we're not now it's April 1. I forget. We're that far.
Yeah, and so that was uninsured apparently, and they're talking about maybe it's going to cost like up to six figures to fix it. And the whole time, you have this beautiful facility with nice batting cages, and they can't use any of the cages. So, yeah, it's one of these things where Santa Fe High, they finally get a nice car, and then someone pushes a shopping cart into it. That's what it feels like.
I was going to say more. It looks like a Maserati and with the body, but when you open the door, or you open the hood, there's a hamster wheel running through it because you don't have an engine.
Poor guys, they've done so much work to that facility. You kind of just want them to have nice things. They find, and it's my understanding the same thing happened at Capitol. I have not been to Capitol yet. I know it happened at St. Mike's. Their cages collapsed too. And their coach, Augie Ruiz, was telling me that it actually pulled the main support poles, which are about 3 feet.
They bent them in, right?
Yeah, but theirs was insured, so they can get theirs fixed. Santa Fe Public Schools.
Way to go, Santa Fe Public Schools.
Yeah. Apparently they did not have the foresight to insure that stuff. So, and look, I'm just gonna say it's 2025 now. I'd say like by 2028 they can have it fixed. Either that,
Maybe.
or it's gonna be an archaeological preserve that they'll go out and like, what kind of ancient civilizations live here? Like, poor Santa Fe.
They're gonna get confuse it for like a homeless camp.
Yeah. It's like, wow, look at all these bars back here. You must have had some sort of prison camp back here.
Camp, yeah.
Golly. But yeah, it's a crazy time, man. The weather sucks, and it turns to spring track and tennis. And
oh, I know. I'm looking forward to it because Thursday and Friday are the Golden Spike Classic, and I'm going to be writing a story coming up about the resurgence of one Bryce Melton over at Santa Fe High and the season he's having. And the forecast for Friday is 50% chance of rain turning into snow in the afternoon. So there's a good chance that will get that meet will not get finished. That we'll have one day of decent weather, and then it goes decent in that it's not raining or snowing or horribly windy. It'll be like in the high 40s, so everybody's going to be bundled up really nice.
Yeah, that cold weather, running as fast as you can, it sounds like one thing to me: hamstring pulls.
Exactly. Don't do that, dude, because that's exactly what took down Bryce last year was his hamstring. I'm sure he's going to be sitting there with a butane torch just trying to keep those things warm.
It's just miserable to watch. By the end of the year, it's going to be like 90 degrees out. We'll be complaining about getting sunburned. But right now,
Oh, I know. I already happened last week when I went to St. Mike's softball. I was there for 3.5 hours, and I was redder than the tomato by the end of it.
well, this week we've got we're going to do our athletes of the year future sports. We're not going to tell you who we picked, but that'll be our Sunday section this weekend. So you can take a look at that. We're talking basketball, swimming, wrestling, all that stuff. So it's the top athletes, boys and girls from each side, and lots of pictures and lots of information about that. It's always kind of a cool thing because one thing it does is it makes a lot of people happy, but it also makes some people very angry.
Very angry.
So looking forward to the emails that'll come into my inbox on Sunday at some.
Always love the ones. Why didn't you pick my kid, who is the sixth man on the fifth place team in District 2 AAA?
Yeah,
you just answered your own question by your description.
Yeah, such and such a kid was cut during the preseason because the coach didn't like him, but he deserved a shot. Like, yeah.
So that's nice. That'd have been a great story 4 months ago, just not now.
Yeah. I do enjoy engaging with our readership. Sometimes it gets a little over top. Like when I was telling you and our design desk, our copy desk guy about how I got one disgruntled writer from complained about our lack of coverage from Cleveland.
Yes, that was wonderful.
Saying didn't write a single word about the Michigan State games. Like, yeah, there were 3 stories on that, and I worked all day. So.
Well, and I think his whole point was we didn't talk about the foul discrepancy and how the Lobos got screwed. But that was for other people to talk about because I think you were a little bit too caught up in the whole. I got to write a story in 20 minutes and ship it out.
Yeah. It was. I forgot to affix my tinfoil hat and realized that everyone hates New Mexico. So it's like it's Michigan, the pure Midwestern team from the Big Ten playing a bunch of foreigners from New Mexico. So of course they're going to get all the foul calls because they probably figured we don't know how to count in Mexico because it doesn't translate to our language. So that's probably what they're thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's always fun to engage with the public in those respects, especially when they call us lame for not providing coverage. Like, we were out there all day, but gave it our best shot.
Yeah. We totally fell up flat on our faces on that one.
Well, now that's the end of basketball season, it's all about spring sports. So we're going to find out just how good this podcast can be. We're going to try to carry
Well, we'll still be talking Lobo basketball and basketball in general, just because that's what keeps this hamster wheel turning and everything. But I'm looking forward to it. I've already kind of given a little bit of a tease of what we're going to be looking forward to in the spring, which is a lot of track because baseball and softball, there are a couple of decent teams, but most of it's going to be track related, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, we'll be talking a lot about the Angels baseball team too. So just be prepared. I want you to
them and that other team, that other doggish team that you like to talk about. That's on the other side of you.
It's the future Super Bowl champions over here.
It's the
only team in the NFL when they do throwback uniforms, they can't go back to actual throwbacks because our throwbacks were from last year. So it's throwback to the previous season. So
there you go, man.
The team that must not be mentioned shall not be mentioned. So
yeah, I know. I wish you had the 82 helmet, with the feather that curved as opposed to
under. Yes. The 1 year that they wore them were John Riggins, who shares a birthday with me, by the way. They wore those when they beat the Dolphins, and my next door neighbor was a huge Dolphins fan. That's when I was still a newspaper delivery boy for the New Mexican back then, and he was such a huge Dolphins fan, and I swear he didn't talk to me for like months afterwards. So sorry. Anyway, that'll do it for this week.
Yes, sir.
We'll have updates for you next week. The powerlifting championships of this weekend.
That's right. Can't forget about that too.
Yeah, we'll talk about that and some of the spring sports stuff. We'll get into the athlete of the year stuff that we're going to do for the winter sports, and maybe at some point, maybe we can talk more Lobo basketball once they sign a player or two. So we'll see.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Alrighty.